Still can't believe they got blown out.
I was there.
Like I was there. I
It
was
was
there.
brutal.
Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day and night out here in Southern California. PORSPR is my Twitter handle, and Ryan Holmes is RHOLM22. I wish we had better stuff to talk about than what the Raiders did this weekend, making Andy Dalton look like Joe Montana. But that's what they do. That's what they do when they have a little bit of prosperity there as well. And I was home watching it, and I'll let Ryan talk about how what was his experience like sitting in Allegiant Stadium, just sitting there talking about it. It was the texts were hilarious, and then it was just tough to watch that in person, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, the first of all, the crowd was amazing. It was
Yeah.
95% Raiders fans. It was probably the loudest I've ever heard it in there. Like the fans are ready to go, coming off the win against Baltimore. When they announced, it was weird. They announced the offensive starters, not the defense. So I was expecting them to announce the defense and have Max run out last, but it was actually the offense they announced that Devontae ran out last. But crowd was going crazy. And then that opening drive that the Panthers put together, I looked at my son. I said, and it's funny you said Montana. I said, what is this, Joe Montana today? Like he was just
Yeah,
kneeling.
that's crazy.
And, you're like, all right, they'll get their feet under them after the first drive. The defense will settle down. And then it was just one drive after another drive after another drive. And you're just like, Max is clearly injured. You could see him. He wasn't moving very well. He couldn't move side to side. He was a shell of his former self. And then when you saw Max was hurt, you're like, all right, we might be in trouble here. But then the Raiders go down and tie it, the bomb to Tucker, and you're like, all right, 7-7, we're back in it. And then right before half, they had a chance to go down and score, get the ball to
Mhm.
start the second half, make a game of it, and the exact opposite happened. They ended up not scoring. Obviously, the Panthers scored, make it 21-7, and then missed the field goal. So the Raiders lost a golden opportunity there. And then when the third quarter, it was run, pass. I mean, the crowd was booing. The crowd was booing early. I'd say probably third drive of the game.
Yeah.
And you could just feel the wind just get sucked out of the building. It was an awful feeling. And there was a Panthers fan about two rows behind me. And on that opening drive, he was just going crazy.
Well,
But it
yeah. Well,
sucks. I mean, if the Raiders want to build a home field advantage, and I know Antonio Pierce talked all about how like they want, the Raider fans to show up and show out, and the Raider fans did their part. The team did not. The team didn't lay an egg; they laid a dozen eggs. I
yeah.
heard on another podcast today that makes total sense. So, when Cleveland comes rolling into town this week and it's 50-50 Browns fans, the Raiders players have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, the guys who are doing the season tickets. I mean, I can't blame you if you don't want to go to that game. I
I'm not
can't.
going back this week. I can tell you,
I
I'm
can't,
not
yeah.
after what I just sat through.
Yeah.
My
No.
heart can't take it.
There's no way. And the survey might come out too as well. The surveys came out right after that game
That's
too,
funny.
which is pretty funny. But
One.
it's just one. Yeah, seriously, one. Performance one. It's just really, I don't know what it is about this franchise. I don't know what it is about the people who coach this franchise, Ryan. But it's like whether it was Gruden, whether it was JMD, whether it was AP, it just seems like they just cannot get these teams started out the gate. Like very few times has the Raiders been like out the gate, ready to go. And under Antonio Pierce, that's been a huge thing for this team to not be able to start fast, and it hurts you when you only play a quarter and a half of good football.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back. He's coached 12 games, I want to say. And the only ones that come to mind where like they had a fast start would be the Kansas City game and the Chargers game where they scored 63. Outside of those
Yeah,
two games, I have a hard time. There may have been one, but
yeah,
I'm thinking 6, 7 of the 9 games he's coached, they
mhm.
just haven't got off to a fast start. I know he preaches it, So there's something they're doing in practice they need to change up. Something needs to happen because this team needs to score some points. This team is not built to get into a dogfight, stop the run, and make plays late in games. This team needs to get a lead early because they can't run the ball.
Yeah.
And then try to make the other team play catch up and make them one-dimensional. The longer the Raiders are in these close games, this game wasn't close, by the way. I'm just in general, if they stay in these close dogfight games,
Yep.
it's a play here, play there. They're not making them right now. And right now, the offensive line's a mess. Although it looks like good returns on DJ Glaze and Jackson Powers Johnson on film, at least from the All-22. I expect they're both going to start this week, hopefully. But until the Raiders really fix their run game issues, we can talk about the quarterback. We can talk about the play calling. If they can't run the ball and they're one-dimensional, and they're going to run this short passing game where they're not going to stretch the field and everyone's going to be running to the same level of the defense, they're very easy to defend. So we'll see what Getsy has. And we talked about this on the preview show, and I brought up this point for a reason when I said, was it an illusion the last quarter and a half against Baltimore when they had to throw the ball, when they had to get it to 89-17? Are we going to see that against the Panthers? And we talked about it, and I said, you know what? I don't think we are. I mean, there's a chance we're going to see them try to force the run, the short passing game, and that's exactly what happened. That was my fear. Luke Getsy learned nothing from the last quarter and a half of that game. And I'll be honest, I watched the All-22 of the Panthers game. People want to say those receivers running wide open all over. That's not the case. There was one play in the first half on a 1st and 20 where Brock Bowers could have been open on a 10-yard in route that Minshew could have hit. Other than that, there wasn't a play in the first half where you're like, all right, that guy's wide open. He could hit that guy. Now, as the game went on, when you got into the third, fourth quarter, you want to dissect plays. But the Panthers are also at that point playing. They're up 27-7. They're playing off coverage. They're 10 yards off. Like, there's guys open on every play when that happens. But when the game mattered, there wasn't.
Yep.
Carolina had them, and they had them on lockdown. The receivers weren't getting open. And then you really need to question the cadence and rhythm of the play calling by Luke Getsy. And I know the execution, the players need to block better, and the running backs need to make better cuts, and the quarterback needs to make better decisions. But when it's run, and it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, it's really hard for the good quarterbacks in the league to consistently move the ball. But when you're asking your quarterback to make the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6 every time on a drive and not get a chunk play, you're not going to move the ball in the National Football League doing that.
Yep.
And then coming out of the half, it was 21-7. It was run on first down, run on second down, 3rd and long, and then they throw the bomb. I have no problem taking the shot to Trey Tucker there, but you need to get a first down and keep the drive going. I don't mind the play call and the design of it and taking the shot. I mind doing it in that right there in that situation of the game. Taking a shot on 3rd and 8 on a drive where you have to score to make this a game is a very, very low percentage play. And when you look at the play in general, you had 2 deep curls, and then you had Brock Bowers, chipping and getting out in the flat. He's open, but he's not the first read. The problem is not Minshew not throwing the ball to Bowers. The problem is the first read on this play is a go route 55 yards down the field when you only need 6 yards and you have to build momentum and you have to put a drive together.
Yep.
And choosing to run on 1st and 2nd down. You want to call that bomb play on 1st or 2nd down? Awesome. Good decision. Throw the ball down the field. You can't call it on 3rd and 8.
And we all know the running game is not what it needs to be. Are we just gonna be, Kareem Hunt just signed, so that was, I mean, he's played for the Chiefs, whatever, so that's fine, whatever. But are we just gonna just sit here and just sit with these running backs and watch Samir White run up the back of offensive linemen instead of like being more patient in the run game? Like, are they going to be this stubborn with this run game, or are they going to go out there and sign somebody or do something to just kind of do something to improve this run game? Because it's really it's like running into a brick wall right now, and this offense is predicated off of, I would think, play action and stuff like that, because you have to be able to do. That's what Minshew and AOC need. Who AOC might be sorry down the road, but they need play action.
The issue with abandoning the zone running game is this whole offensive passing game is built off of that.
Yeah.
So the bootlegs, and we haven't seen a lot of them, but this offense is basically based on that. Bootleg, get out. They're running some of the stuff the 49ers, the Packers, this West Coast offense where you're going off outside zone. If you stop running outside zone, then teams don't have to respect that. Not that the
No.
Raiders are using that a ton now, but they need to. They need to get Minshew out of the pocket, move the pocket, have him get some easy passes to the tight ends early, 5 yards down the field where they can make some yardage after the catch. They can't just keep running curl routes. And then they basically ran these like China routes the whole game. It was amazing. I'm watching the film. They're basically running what looks like they're running a 10-yard stem and breaking like to the pylon and turning around and going back the other way. It takes so long to run those routes that the quarterback's got to hold the ball, and make sure the receiver gets turned around. And by then the defense was pretty much on them. So like every time there's a big play, it looks like it's a curl somewhere. And it's like, you can't – I don't even run curls on Madden. Like there's so many other routes you can run to get these guys open. But I think with the run game and I went back and charted this. I had someone ask me on Twitter if I thought they were going to, do more power runs. They ran 7 zone plays. I think it was 5 power plays if you count some of the goal line run by Madison, and then 1 toss. I kind of don't know really what to categorize that when they toss it to White the same side. But what they need to do is get under center too. Like Gardner Minshew's in the shotgun 90% of the time, it feels like. So like there's no real threat. When you're in the shotgun and the back's offset, there's really only 1 or 2 plays you can run off of that. So the defense is a pretty good idea. And then when you watch the film, like the linebackers of the Panthers, there must be a tell somewhere because you could see them kind of shift right to where the run was going to go before the snap on probably 4 or 5 of the 13 runs the Raiders ran. So like there's something going on where the other team knows what they're doing. And they're not even good at it either. And I think we're going to see a lineup change this week. Jackson Powers-Johnson had some pretty good film in the fourth quarter. I have no idea why he went in for Parham and not Whitehair. Whitehair had a couple where they tried to run power and they tried to pull him, and he was just a complete zero on those 2 plays. Like, didn't really do anything, kind of got in the way a couple times. Had a defensive end basically take him out, which pushed him into another guy behind him. So if you want to run power, you're going to have to put Jackson Powers-Johnson and Dylan Parham in there. The center's got to block better. You have the problem is if you put him at right guard, I know a lot of people are like, just move Parham back to left. But now you're playing a rookie at right guard and a rookie at right tackle because Thayer Munford is going to be out for a little bit here, it looks like. So do you really want to run 2 rookies out there when you have Cleveland coming? Then you got to go to Denver's got a pretty stout defense still, and then you got Pittsburgh staring at you. So I would think that Whitehair would go over to left guard, so at least you can have some veterans around the 2 younger players that are now apparently going to be playing on the line, hopefully. But they can't scrap the zone game altogether. The problem is Madison's not very good at it either. Unless you just want to have Amir Abdullah do it, he could probably do it. Not great, but he could do it better than the other 2. But you need Zamir White. You need the big body to get going. You need him to break tackles. You need him to run tough. You need him to run physical. But the Raiders also can't just turn around on every first down and try to run the ball because then it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. Like, you want to take your shots there. You want to play action. Get a quick 5 or 6 yard pass. Make it 2nd and 4, and then you can try to open up the run game.
Yeah.
But don't forget about 89. Like 89's open all over the place, and like they basically didn't use him at all this game.
Yeah. I think we pretty much wrapped up. The offense in a nutshell as far as that goes. I don't want to forget about defense. I don't forget about PG. You know what I'm saying? Because this was not that wasn't fun to watch either. And I think the one thing about what Canales and what Dalton did in this game, they just when they were very decisive in what they wanted to do in the past game. They just it was like a snap. The ball was snapped to him. He just turned 1, 2, and then got rid of the football. So even if they had Max, I think it'd have been tough to get to Dalton in this ball game. But they were really decisive. They got the ball to their weapons, and then they were able to make plays. It just didn't seem like to have them just walk down. I understand that like Dalton's a veteran. I understand that he's a guy who's been in the playoffs before, but to have that whole thing click like that and look so like easy, it was like what did we do all week?
He was playing on the rookie setting on Madden.
Yes,
against PG. That's what it looked like.
100%.
It was tough because they played a lot of zone in the first half. They did bring Masterson on a handful of blitzes, but he did it from depth. So like they're getting the ball out quick, and all he's doing is creating a giant void in the middle of the defense. And I thought the interesting thing from looking at the film was both safeties, they played some too high in this game, but they were both like outside the numbers, almost like it looked like cover two, but they weren't playing cover two. It's like for some reason they were trying to play outside the numbers and deep against Dalton. He was just dinking and dunking them. And then when he took his shot, he was able to obviously hit the ball right before halftime. They were in cover four. Like that can't happen. Marcus Epps can't have the ball go over his head right there. And Jack Jones is a little late breaking on it as well. And then in the second half, they tried to play a lot of man. And then you saw Deontay Johnson kind of get loose a few times. And they all took turns. Jack Jones had a bad game. Bennett had a bad game. Epps had a bad game. And Merrick wasn't as bad as the other three, but it wasn't a great game for him either. No. And Masterson was kind of lost there a lot in the first half. They ended up, mixing in a little bit of Eichenberg when the game kind of got out of hand. He missed a tackle out in the flat that led to a big gain as well. So this team needs Diablo back, and he hasn't been great, but he's been better than what the other two guys showed, obviously, last week. But this team, and we talked about it again in the pregame, I thought they should just lay back, play coverage, and make them throw the ball and rally and tackle. And at the end of the day, they basically said, you know what? We're just going to vacate the middle of the field for the whole game. Like, it was wide open. Anything they ran to the middle of the field was wide open the whole game. And I just didn't really understand the game plan from Patrick Graham. They didn't stop the run. And they kind of let Dalton do whatever he wanted to do. And his first read was open most of the time. So, like, Dave Canales or whoever the offense coordinator calling plays over there has had a pretty good beat on what the Raiders wanted to do. And the Raiders didn't make it very hard for them to do it either. That's the other thing. The Raiders basically let them do whatever they wanted to do. They moved the ball down the field. I thought Nate Hobbs in the first half got beat a few times. He played much better in the second half. But when basically your entire secondary has a bad game and then you have no pass rush, you're not going to win. And then you can't stop the run. So anything that could go wrong went wrong in that game.
Is it worrisome that this defense is almost like a one-man show as far as it goes? Because, I mean, it doesn't seem like this was a game where, like, hey, Crosby's not 100%, but somebody could have stepped up and got pressure and had some TFLs, things like that, and nobody did. And even going into this game, all the pressures, all the sacks were from 98. So I think that's probably, does that, like, one of the biggest, is that worry you, a big deal? Because, I mean, I'm just worried about them being able to generate a pass rush when they start playing, because that part of the schedule is coming. And I'm just worried about them not really being behind the eight ball against some of these really good teams.
Oh, it's definitely a worry. I mean, it's a high ankle sprain. So even if he's playing for the next 3 or 4 weeks, he's not going to be 100%.
Yeah.
Losing Malcolm Kuntz really hurt this team. Tyree Wilson is going to have to play a lot more on the edge. And he actually had some snaps this week. We're like, okay, like, he's starting to show some stuff. And I know everyone was killing him on Twitter when I posted that clip, but, like, he had 3 or 4 run stops. He had a pressure. He got close to getting a sack. He didn't play a ton of snaps. So, like, expecting him to come in and he was hurt. He didn't play last week either. Expecting him to just come in and get 2 sacks and just be this dominant force, that's not him. You're just looking for him to contribute. They don't have a lot of depth behind him. So, I would expect K'Von Chason to be up again this week, get a little bit more run. They tried Amari Gainer on the edge. There's one play where he got knocked back about 10 yards and almost ended up out of bounds. Like, the left tackle for the Panthers.
Like in a movie? Like in a movie?
Depleted him. Dude's flying across the screen. And I'm like, oh, damn.
Oh, man.
So he didn't fare well. Charles Snowden, he had a half a sack, but they didn't even block him. The tight end ran into the tackle, and basically no one touched him. Christian Wilkins is making a ton of money, and I love Christian Wilkins, but it's time for Christian Wilkins to be a difference maker on this defensive line. We're 3 weeks in. He's had a few nice plays here or there, but you don't feel Christian Wilkins when you're watching the game. Like, where is he? They need him right now. And they really don't have another option inside right now. If you're going to have to play Tyree Wilson outside, who's the other interior pass rusher that this team can get? Adam Butler is going to have to be that guy, but, like, can he do it where he's basically being a 3-down guy for a whole game? He's better in a situational role than he is hey, let's give this guy 60 snaps a game. So I think John Jenkins, as good as he played last year, you can tell age is starting to catch up with him. It's a bigger body. Like he doesn't look nearly as good as he did last year on film. So this Raiders defensive line that was supposed to be a strength, and they're falling like flies. And then the guys that are there that are not playing as well as they did last year.
And then there's not enough Tommy DeVito's on the schedule, man. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure. Not enough Zach Wilson's on the schedule.
And they have to create turnovers. I know Raider fans want to say this is a top 5 defense, but until this team can create turnovers on a regular basis,
you need some.
They're not. And right now they're in the bottom third of the league in a lot of categories. So this team really needs to respond in the defense side. They have the pieces to do it. They have done it. Now they need to go out and do it again.
Yeah, it's tough sledding right now. So we'll see what happens with the Raiders as far. We watched them against the Panthers. We know what everything happened with that game. Looking at the Browns game here, and that's just a whole nother cluster here because the on both sides of the ball, that team is pretty talented. But then again, they have the situation what the Raiders have as far as the quarterback goes. Like, what is going to happen? Like, what Deshaun Watson is going to show up? They lost to the Giants at home. Like, they're just really they're in a bad way, just like the Raiders are.
Myles Garrett's dinged up, just like Max Crosby. You don't know what you're going to get out of either one of those guys. Wyatt Teller just got hurt. He's not going to play. So they're playing a backup right guard. Christian Wilkins needs to dominate this game at that point. They're getting Wills back at left tackle. He hasn't played much. He's coming off an injury. I think last week was his first week active. I don't know how many snaps he played, but he missed all of training camp. So that's another guy they need to take advantage of if they can. The biggest thing I want to see from this game, and we'll talk about Antonio Pierce basically coming out after the game and saying business decisions were made. Now we're going to make business decisions. And then he doubled down on Monday during his press conference saying, I don't bite my tongue. AP's in a tough spot here to keep this locker room. Honestly, we're going into week 4 because if I'm in that locker room and AP's a man of his word, are there going to be lineup changes? Is this just talk? Like, if he doesn't do something when we turn the TV on Sunday and there's not some lineup changes on both sides of the ball, then what was all that rhetoric for? He can do that inside the locker room. So, he's put himself in a tough place right now if he doesn't come out and make a couple of lineup changes. But is that really going to help the team as well? So if you're playing less talented players, we'll see what AP does, because this is going to be something that I think all Raider fans are going to be watching for come the Browns game. Is what is AP? He talked all week about business decisions and the team was going to make some. Let's see if they really are going to make some.
And also, I mean, they did sign Sam Webb, so I don't know if that's going to be. I mean, that could be.
Well, that's because Epps went on IR.
Yeah, so that's on IR. So you have that, and I don't know if that's going to be. I mean, are they really going to sit one of these corners? I mean, because on a national level, everybody went in on Jack Jones. I mean, I saw people who I never see cover the Raiders talk about the Raiders at all. They made sure that they pulled up that all 22 and some of those runs where he didn't look like he was really engaged in tackling, and was obviously looked like he wasn't interested in it. And then same thing with DeCorian Bennett. So that's gonna be interesting to see what happens as far as that goes.
Is it a series? Is it a quarter? Is it a half? Like what is he going to hand down disciplinarian wise?
Exactly.
Because if he wants to keep this team and he wants to run this the way Mike Tomlin runs the Steelers, let's say, he's got to back up his talk right now. And as much as a Raider fan, it sucks that we may be without a player for a series or a quarter or a half. AP's got it now. He has to nail down, because if he doesn't do anything, those guys can just look around and be like, all right, AP said he's going to do something. I mean, but he's not. To the fan base, it's just talk at that point. We've seen a lot of talk. Yeah. Now we need to see results in action. It's the
parent who somebody texted the show. He was like, it's the parent who threatens to take away the phone but never takes away the phone. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Honestly, he shouldn't have said it. He should have said it after 100%, the game in the locker room. 100%. He never should have said it to the public.
100%. That is something where you have a very mundane, boring press conference, and then you get your leaders and you get the team together and you say, what we just put together on that field today was horseshit. It's not going to be tolerated. And I saw whatever. You can go into the team. He doesn't have the um the pelts on the wall to go talk to his team through the media.
Not yet.
Not yet. He doesn't have that yet. So you can't be going through the media with all that stuff there. And I just thought it wasn't a good look for him to do what he did. But he did it, and that's it. And then we have to see what the ramifications are. And is he willing to sit there and watch, maybe a couple of really young players who are not very good cover Amari Cooper and cover Elijah Moore and maybe give up some big plays, like, what I mean, just to prove a point to Bennett and to Jones or whoever he wants to target. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's very rookie. It's very rookyish. This sounds like very rookyish, rookie head coaches situation here as far as what AP did this week.
Have you ever heard the term business decisions in week 3? I get it in week 16 or 17. You want to go Nick Van Exel, go 1-2-3 Cancun.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, like, you hear it. I've never heard it in week 3 from a team who basically handpicked the coach, and that's who they wanted. So, I was at the game, so I heard the comments. I was listening to the press conference driving home from Vegas.
Yeah.
So I threw the tape on yesterday, and I was expecting to see, like, lack of effort all over. I didn't see that. Like, it was 2 plays with Jack Jones and 2 plays with Ja'Cory and Bennett where there were runs to their side where they just really didn't have any interest in run support.
Yeah.
And their cover corners, I get it. You don't want to lose one of those guys to an injury coming up and, like, setting the edge and tackling a guy when you're down 33-7 or whatever the score was. I didn't see anything from the linebackers. Polamalu came in and was flying around. Merrick was still flying around. Like, it's hard to think business decisions are made on offense. I really didn't see anything that really stood out. So it was like you could nitpick 3 or 4 plays maybe, but it wasn't near to the level that I thought it would be. Now, did they play with the same energy and passion that they played with in the first half of the Chargers game? No, they didn't. So if AP, maybe he just chose the wrong words, and maybe, like, they didn't play this with the same sort of gusto, they did in the first half where they were just flying around the field. And he wants to see that for 4 quarters. We all want to see that for 4 quarters, but I didn't see the business decisions the same way he did when I was watching the L-22.
Yeah. It's just a lot of talk. It was a lot of talk, and then you have the K. I think Devontae was on K Adams today. His weekly spot on that show, and there was conversations about anything from Jaden Daniels hoping he would drop to 13 to
no
to other stuff. It's leadership, attitude reflects leadership, if you want to quote Remember the Titans. But it's his job to get this team. They have not, like, for them to be this, like, disorganized and this putrid for the first 2.5 quarters of games. Like, that goes into, I mean, you can whisper all you want to Marvin Lewis on the sidelines. It's too late at that point. Like, it should be that should be, like, we gotta start fast. I think starting fast, a lot of it is off, at least offensively, is getting the ball to it. The game has juice to it when you go to your big time players. When Devontae, even if it's just a 10-yard catch for a first down, you can see him get lathered up. You can see him start doing the first down. It gets everybody on offense a little bit juiced, and also people pay the good money like you did to go see the Raiders and go see Brock Bowers do shit. And when you don't have something designed for Brock Bowers, and I'm seeing, like, Gerard Jennings go when the Niners have, like, down to their, like, last 2 receivers have a mega game against the Rams. I'm like, okay. Like, he definitely schemed it up pretty good to get him going. Like, why you got to be able to do those things if you're an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we talked about this last week too. Like, is this an 11 or 12 personnel team? It sure looks like it's going to be an 11 personnel team. because they're having a hard time running the ball. And the teams are playing nickel against them when they go to 12. So teams don't care. They're just like, this team can't run the ball. The Raiders didn't have a single run. I don't know if you heard this stuff. They didn't have a single run against the Panthers with a loaded box. Not one. And they couldn't run the ball. The issue you had, and we talked about this too, if the offensive tackles aren't going to hold up and you have to chip with Brock Bowers, you basically just turn him into a check down guy. So Brock Bowers when they went to 11 personnel, spent a ton of time chipping the defensive end and then just getting out into the flat. Like that's not going to help this team be explosive. So if they're going to do that, I would recommend stay in 12 and just use him as a wide receiver. Get him off the line of scrimmage, put him in the slot, and let him basically be a big slot guy and use Michael Mayer as the tight end to chip and then get out in the flat. I understand you're going to have to take Jacoby Myers or Trey Tucker off the field to do that.
Yep.
Brock Bowers is a better player than both of those guys right now.
Yep.
So you got to put him in the field. You have to put him in. If you need a tight end to chip, you just put Mayer in the field and let him do that. And you're just going to have to decide, do you want Jacoby Myers in for this play or do you want Trey Tucker in for this play with Adams and Bowers? So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So looking at this, this game here with the Browns, what are your thoughts about this one? Who do you think's gonna come out on top? I'm not gonna be here for the rest of the week. I'm gonna be this week. I'm actually flying this week. I'm actually flying this week. So I'm going to Connecticut. I'm going to go on my own stomping ground. So I just, I don't really feel, I think the Browns are really talented. I think they have a really good head coach. I think they have all the pieces, but they just don't have the quarterback. They took their shot. Deshaun Watson was out there. Everybody wanted him. They were like, hey, we'll give you the, what's it called? The fully guaranteed contract. It has not worked out. As far as that is, they don't have the running game is just okay. They have weapons on wide receiver with Judy and Moore and Mari Cooper, but they're a little bit of an offensive mess as well. What were the thoughts about them? And do you feel like the Raiders match up well against this team, or they don't?
Well, until they get better offensive and defensive line play, it's going to be tough to say that they match up well with anybody. I will say this: the offensive line for the Browns is a mess right now.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson's taken sacks at a high level. He's been one of the worst drop back passers in the league, and they don't have Nick Chubb. So this Raiders defense should have a fire lit under this week. AP should take no prisoners in practice. They should be padded up tomorrow and hitting hard. This defense is too good not to bounce back. So they laid an egg, but I do think getting a mulligan and getting to come home and play again against an offense that isn't very good either. I think the defense rebounds. I still don't trust the Raiders offense because I don't trust Luke Getsy at all. And I don't think they can run the ball. I don't think they can run the ball on the Browns either.
Yeah.
So I don't expect him to spread it out and just start throwing it around the field. I think Antonio Pierce is going to want to go to the same game plan. I want to be physical. I want to establish the trenches. I want to run the ball. And they're going to be hard-headed and do that again. But I don't think the Browns offense can do enough. And obviously we said the Panthers offense couldn't, and we were completely wrong. But I think the Raiders bounce back. I think it's low scoring. I think they win this game. I think the defense can hold them to field goals when they get in the red zone. The problem was they gave up touchdowns.
Yeah.
The first 3 times by the Panthers. If they hold them to field goals like they did the Ravens and it's a 9-7 game at halftime, it's a completely different game. But they didn't. So I think they do in this game. I think the Raiders will win this game. I'm going to say low scoring, something like 20-16, something like that. I have a 4-point game.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a Raider thing to do. I mean, this is such a Raider thing to do, to play that poorly last week, to come home and then play well. I mean, or play well enough to beat the Browns. I see them beating the Browns. It's so funny because we've been doing this show for a while, and I'm looking at their depth chart and I'm seeing all these players we talked about in the draft, we were like, oh, that he'd be a good Raider. He'd be a good Raider. He'd be a good Raider.
They're on
And
the
so
Browns.
there's so many players on this defense who are on the Browns. Like, it's freaking nuts, dude. I remember shows specifically you talking about some of these players, some of these corners, especially on this team. But listen, we'll see what the Browns do. I mean, I think you said it as far as like being what kind of Jim Schwartz game do you get? Do you get the Jim Schwartz game where he's aggressive to the point where you get some big plays, or you get the game where you get like 4 or 5 sacks, and a turnover?
It might be both.
It might be both. Be both in this game. So we'll see. I mean, this game is pretty much like you go to. I mean, right now the Raiders are 1-2. You drop to like 1-3. You're falling in the depths of the you fall in quicksand, NFL quicksand, as far as your season goes. So I'd be very concerned about either one of these teams who does not win this game. But I'm going to go to Raiders winning this game. Then they find a way, just a Raider thing to do to win this game, to kind of alternate wins and losses and say, hey, when the season started, I can see the optimist Raider fans saying, hey, when the season started, everybody said let's go 2-2 in the first 4 and see what happens. But yeah.
I think with Myles Garrett not being close to 100% and basically limping off the field pretty badly last week, and knowing he's got an injury to both feet, that really sways me back to the Raiders. If Myles Garrett was 100%, I'd pick the Browns in this game because he would just dominate that offensive line, especially if it's over Miller, who's had a bad year so far, or over a rookie in DJ Glaze. But I think that's a key injury in this game. And like you said, I think this team is embarrassed. They should be embarrassed about the product they put out there. And they have an opportunity to rebound at home. If this game was in Cleveland, I picked Cleveland. But I think since this game is at home, this team is licking their wounds. And hopefully we see the real spirit of this defense that we saw down the stretch last year return. Because if they don't do it this week, then you're going on the road. Then what do you think the Steelers defense is going to do to this offense right now? And if the offense can't run the ball and can't get clicking?
And Ryan, it's about there's been so many weeks where Max has carried this defense. Like it's time for y'all to carry him for a week. I mean, he's played hurt. He almost lost a leg last year. Like, you know what I mean? Like all this other stuff that with Max Crosby, he's been such a stalwart defensively for this team. It is time for this defense to carry him for a week, like or a couple of games. I mean, like the high ankle sprain is hurting. That's gonna be there for the whole year. It's painful. It's hard to deal with, but it's time for this defense to like come in, and you're not playing a great offense. They have trouble on the offensive line. They have a quarterback who holds the football. They might get sick of him, and we might see James Winston in this game. Who knows? Jerome Ford is a solid running back. Deontay Foreman is a solid running back, but nobody's going to confuse them with Jim Brown, or Ernest Givens or whoever, or Ernest Biner, I should say. So you have opportunities there. Their defense is probably looking at the Raiders defense the Raiders offense the same way. So I don't care if it's 9-6, this game's not going to be pretty. I think the Raiders win it in a close one, but I don't know, 16-13. I think I could just see the field goal kickers going back and forth in this ball game.
Carlson better not miss this week.
Carlson's on a he's on a roll. Like he's on a roll. Maybe banging that locker on the top of that locker. The other day in Baltimore hurt him, but he is not kicked. He's not kicked well this year. Anything else?
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to mention is Isaiah Pullman has a great opportunity here.
He does.
With Epps being out for the year, he's going to be the starter for the rest of the year. And I think it's not a ton of plays, but he can go down in the slot and cover tight ends. He can play the deep safety. He's played the deep middle. He showed nice range on that dive in the end zone where he almost got an interception, and then he came up and run support a couple of times. So like he has everything you're looking for. He just needs experience. I think he's a versatile chip to have on the back end that the Raiders can move around and do different things. When they want to go to dime, I think you're going to see Darnay Holmes be the first guy up. I had someone ask me that question. They wanted to see Chris Smith, but I think Darnay Holmes will be the sixth DB that comes in. So instead of going three safeties, three corners, they'll go four corners, two safeties. There may be a package for Chris here or there. When you want to blitz, pull him out and get him up by the line of scrimmage. But he has a little bit more speed than Epps. He's got much more length. He doesn't have the veteran savvy or the communication or leadership on the back end. But I think there's a chance that he'll be a better player in the long run. I think this is a great opportunity for a talented kid to really get his feet under him. And I think he can elevate this defense if he can play well on the back end. And they trust him. He's been playing deep safety in some of these packages where they brought, like, basically playing cover three, and they're bringing Epps and Merrick both into the curl hook routes. So they trust him in the back end. They trust him at the line of scrimmage. They trust him on blitzes. So great opportunity for a Las Vegas native and USC Trojan. I think they call those Projans. That's what my brother says, Projans. So we'll see.
Yes,
I like him on film. I think it's a great opportunity for a player to have to step up and earn a contract for next year, because Epps is an unrestricted free agent coming off of ACL surgery.
Yes, they Projans is a big. It was a big part of when I went to the Utah State game. They had Projans everywhere. It's typical stuff. All right, Raider Nation. I think in this one, take the under. I don't know what the under is to take the under. I think it's gonna be an ugly game. It'd be a rock fight for the most part.
Take it up real quick.
Yeah, what is the under in this game?
Not that I can bring it up on my phone that fast, but
yeah. But I mean,
it is. What do you think it is?
I think I don't.
Whew.
Is that low?
37.5.
I was gonna say 40.
And I went 20-16, which is 36. So I guess I'm on the under.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rock fight. It's gonna be a rock fight. It's gonna be gross. But the Raiders win. The Raiders win. All right, Raider Nation. We'll see you next week after the Raiders Browns game. We'll see if they can pull that one out and take it from there. All right, Ryan. You have a great week.
Take care.
Yep.